You're listening to
They're gonna call it a hard foul. They're gonna call it a hard foul.
offering in-depth analysis on all things Boston Celtics with your hosts, Jim and Mike Quigley.
All right, we have a special guest on. You're going to call this a hard foul. The host of the First of the Floor podcast, Jake Issenberg, is joining me and Mike today. Jake, how are you doing? How is Australia? How are you enjoying your summer?
I'm well. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Summer is good. Winter for us, but I'm enjoying the summer. Summer of the Celtics.
You idiot! I mean,
yes. Yeah, dude. I'm having a great time. Going to war on Twitter. In between going surfing in the freezing cold down in Tasmania. So balance is the key to my life here.
That's a good balance. I have enjoyed your wars on Twitter, and that's what made me think I had to get you on, particularly on the Tatum end of things. And you are the Tatum defender right now against Tatum derangement syndrome out there, I feel like.
A little bit of that.
But before we get to that, let's get into, this ownership kind of bomb that keeps getting dropped every couple of weeks there. Bill Simmons yesterday, not yesterday, a few days ago, I guess now, that saying that Jeff Bezos is possibly interested in owning the Celtics. You mentioned to me before the pod that there is a reporter from the New York Times saying that might not be so, but let's just pretend for the sake of this podcast that he is interested. What are your initial thoughts? How should we take this as Celtics fans?
Yeah, there is a conflicting reports, but I don't think Bill Simmons is just going to throw that out there. And he didn't just throw it out there. He was like, I don't care if I get aggregated. I'm right about this. He was very clear and adamant. So I still think there's maybe a little bit of truth to it, despite the conflicting report. Look, when it comes to Bezos and ownership and stuff like that, I'm not sure you're going to get a billionaire or an owner of a sports franchise that's going to have a squeaky clean record. And Bezos is definitely not one of those guys for a variety of reasons, obviously. But look, I'm not here to save the world. I can't control what I can't control. I want my sports owner to do two things: listen to Brad Stevens and pay luxury tax and get out of the way. That's it. And
that's a good philosophy.
Yeah. So but I know he has got the money to pay the luxury tax, and I don't know. I like to think he'd want to run a good business. He sees the success of the Celtics franchise. Why not just, if it ain't broke, well, don't need to fix it.
Yeah, I think maybe his biggest challenge would be his ego. The Celtics, one of the great things about our franchise is the longevity of the people who work in the front office. Even after Danny Ainge left, promoting Brad, Danny Ainge is his kid that works in, works.
Yeah, Austin Ainge.
Yeah. So
Zarin's over there.
I guess my one concern would be, does somebody come in, whether it's Bezos or anybody, and just clean house without, keeping in mind that part of the reason we're so successful is because people love it here and they stay here. They do a good job with evaluating talent, all those other things that if he brings in people who don't know much about basketball and they're just his people to run a business, that might be concerning. That's one thing I'd be concerned about.
Yeah, so it's the latter that I'm more exactly. So I'd be more concerned with that. But there are some, Steve Ballmer with the Clippers to keep Lawrence Frank and Tyronn Lue over there. So there has been efforts with continuity with some of these deep-pocketed billionaires. But there's also examples throughout sports of these guys coming in and kind of bringing in their own people and thinking their business model will work in the world of sports. And you have some scary scenarios that kind of come from that. And I guess that's the thing I'm most concerned about with anybody coming in is what we've had such great continuity here that Michael has mentioned, not a lot of coaches under this current ownership group, just Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens from the management perspective. And it's been a model franchise, not just in basketball, I think, but in really all of sports and how it's run, everything from talent evaluation to cap management to continuity within the front office and the coaching staff. So I'm in agreement with everyone here. But the good news is Bezos has a lot of money. The luxury tax won't matter at all. at all.
Yeah. Assuming he's willing to use the money to pay for the tax, you would assume, but there's these like the Cronkies for the Nuggets have plenty of money and they haven't been willing to pay.
Right.
Like they let KCP go, and they could have gone deeper into the luxury tax. So some of these guys, I mean, Bezos is he's in a stratosphere with Steve Ballmer and some of these guys where like you're getting into triple digit billions where a couple $100 million luxury tax. And I don't understand why that would matter to you, but I guess it's the unknown is scary because, as you guys said, we have the perfect franchise right now. Like you could not draw it up better. We've got continuity from top to bottom, from Zarin, Brad to go from the coaching staff into the management team, and to not only go from being one of the best coaches in the league to he's been the best GM in the NBA since he's taken over that position. And then exactly, and then you look at the continuity of the star players, and it's like. Not only you've got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, who are like model stars. Like there's no drama. They just go out there, they play 70+ games, they play both ends. And so it's like literally culturally from the ownership all the way down to the equipment staff, to Tatum's trainers, like to Peyton Pritchard, like it doesn't matter. Everyone's on the same page. So it's like any change is scary right now, especially coming off a title where it's like, man, we've finally done it. We've gotten to this point where everything feels like so perfect. Any change is going to be scary.
Yeah, and it was the first thing when Tatum was asked about the news when he was like, "Well, I just hope things don't really change here," because I think these guys they're non-drama superstars, which is weird. I think we're very, very fortunate to have that. You look around the league, you look around sports, you don't have the non-drama following these guys. As you have in other places. I mean, even the 90s was just filled with drama.
My advice to Bezos, if he buys a team, would be throw whatever money you have to throw at Brad Stevens to keep him there forever.
Absolutely. He's our Lord and Savior.
Yeah. I can't believe how we just stepped into that role and immediately changed the trajectory of where we were going, because the roster was a mess that he took over. And he turned those contracts into tradable contracts. He brought in guys that we could trade to bring in the likes of a Derek White and eventually a Drew Holiday, a Kristaps Porzingis, by re-signing Marcus Smart and Robert Williams, and probably missing some guys in here, but even being able to use a Josh Richardson in the deal to bring in, like I said, Derek White. So, whoever buys this team, it's easy to just keep it the way it is. Keep it rolling and spend money and win championships.
It feels obvious to me, right? Like like Bezos, I don't think would buy the Celtics for monetary purposes, right? Like even if he 2x's his investment on a $6 billion purchase, that's $12 billion. Obviously, like that's a shitload of money, but like what's that to him at that point? I think if he's buying a franchise, it's for like the status, it's the cultural, like the icon, it's the symbol. So like it would behoove him obviously to keep for that team to be run as as efficiently and similarly as possible. You just hope you don't have that new owner syndrome where it's like I've got to put my stamp on the team. Where you look at Ishbia for the Suns, he comes in, he trades the house for Kevin Durant, which was a lot to give up for Kevin Durant, but then he trades whatever's left in the house. He strips the paint off the wall and trades that for Bradley Beal. And now it's like they've got bigger, luxury tax and second apron concerns than the Celtics, and their team isn't good. So it's like that, and that was a new owner. Like I can come in here and I think I know what I'm doing. I think I'm so successful in my industry, my field. How hard can it be to run a basketball team?
That's exactly it. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And hey, well, Bezos, as Mike would say, is better than John Henry with the Red Sox or any of the Robert.
John Henry's first move will be Jason Tatum to the Blazers for no one.
Yeah. Of like the Lakers, honestly, like the Dodgers right next door. I saw a report that they're also out as well, and that like they leaked that they're interested, so people don't think that they're broke. I'm choosing to believe that part of the story.
Yeah. Hey, the other ownership, if Pags can put together a team, that would be great. And
That's the dream. Yeah.
that would be the best case scenario if he could find. I don't know what his portfolio looks like, but if he could, keep that thing together with the minority group that's there, that would be the most ideal situation. And maybe they won't have the wherewithal, not the wherewithal, the pockets essentially to do what Bezos would do, but at least that you would have a franchise that's going to run their business in a smart way and stay competitive probably here. So before we get to the Tatum stuff, I know you're very hurt right now over the Yabu selling news going to Philly, to play with the only guy that has a bigger ass than him in the league, Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
He can dance on their sideline now. So
I know.
So first of all, are you okay? And secondly, are you going to make it through the season?
I know. No, I'm not okay. This I was surprised at how much this negatively impacted how I was feeling. I was like, because we got to see Yabu in the Olympics and he was awesome.
He was.
And I was like, I think, he could maybe come in and play a role on an NBA team. Yeah. And to go to the Sixers, like, I think I hate the Heat more, but I just, to see him go to the Sixers, like that historic rivalry, obviously we're talking like 16th overall pick for the Celtics, who like barely played, went to Europe. Yeah. It's funny how this is why Celtics fans are the best though. We've got these emotional attachments to these guys that had, a cup of coffee with the Celtics, but we'll never forget Yabu and his beautiful caboose and his beautiful dab, shoot the arrow celebration every time he hit a three. Like that's gonna be tough if he hits the Celtics with that celebration, in the playoffs.
The best part is they didn't even want him over here. They wanted him to stay overseas. And, because to help them with the cap and everything else at the time, what they were trying to do with the double max slots and all that fun stuff. And he ended up coming over here way too soon. He was not ready to be in the NBA. And I was surprised he chose a contender. I thought he would go to a place where maybe minutes might open up a little bit more. I think it's him and Caleb Martin basically fighting for that 10th spot right now in playing time. So
I thought he was a lock for the Spurs. I was like, would Wemby not just be like, give me my buddy from the Olympic team, and if you're the Spurs organization, you should be doing everything you can to keep Wemby happy, and it's like a nice veterans minimum regardless. So, but I guess if he plays well for the Sixers, there's obviously that spot, as you mentioned, in the rotation and at power forward. Like right now, Caleb Martin, I think might be either starting or it's like they don't have a power forward. So if he ends up coming over and is able to play that role, like the ceiling outcome for them, he ends up being their power forward for the season. He's going to end up making himself like a 3-year, $20 million contract if he plays well. The good news is like, even if he plays well, the Sixers can't keep him. So it's like, it's a 1-year deal and they won't be able to re-sign him if he plays well enough to get one of those contracts.
Yeah. And the upside with the Sixers is, they're not going to pass the second round.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Exactly. It can only hurt us so much.
Yeah.
And Embiid won't be in shape for the playoffs.
No. They're not a worry. It's just I like seeing them unhappy, and seeing them happy when they got Yabu was annoying.
Yeah, I like seeing them unhappy, but I think it's always just a matter of time.
Of course.
So
exactly. It's not if, it's when.
Yeah, it's a matter of time. It's a good transition. Yabu was great in the playoffs. Embiid, outside of one game against Serbia, was pretty terrible. Not in the playoffs, in the Olympics. And then our guy, for whatever reason, and I'd love to. I obviously Kerr doesn't really respect Tatum's game. That's the only thing I can come up with here.
He's
did
a
not
certain
play.
word.
Yes. Mike has a certain word that we had a podcast where we called him an asshat. Mike used a different language.
He's a cunt.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That's a word we like to use in this country too. So I can appreciate that one. Yeah, I don't know. It was nonsensical from a basketball perspective for me to at least not get him. He didn't going into the Olympics. I didn't want him playing a big role. I was like, give him 8 to 12 minutes. He can play any position, play elite defense, rebound. and you'll win the gold medal. That was the whole point of this Olympic team, was that like it didn't matter really. I mean, they got through by the skin of their teeth. I know I'm 50% American. I have my US passport, but I was going for Serbia in that third place game, just so because Tatum, didn't get into that game obviously, and it's like, well, maybe the best American player in the NBA could have actually helped you, but they get out of that jam. Steph Curry bails out Steve Kerr once again, and here we are.
It was so hard to cheer for that team because of what was happening to Tatum. And then what pissed me off even more after the fact was I wasn't able to appreciate what Steph Curry was doing.
Totally.
And that's what really bothered me, because this was special for him, LeBron and KD, to do this one more time, right? And that can be Jason Tatum again 4 years from now, but it's like, does he even want to go back after this? And I just don't understand. I mean, this guy, he went to the Olympics last time with KD and that team when everybody else bailed on it. And he went there and he played well and he won us a gold medal. And then he wins the NBA Finals. And your reaction is to not play him? Like, I don't know. I look at what Bob Cousy said, and I don't want to sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist, but it's like, is this intentional? Like, it feels like the media, the narrative around him and Brown, like, they continue to bring up stuff that's just not there. And it's just really weird that people wouldn't root for guys like Tatum and Brown more, because as you mentioned earlier, they do everything the right way.
Yeah, dude. Tatum just isn't funny enough compared to Anthony Edwards, apparently. Like, he's just like, it's so interesting how like that seems to be the reason. I do think that they're just a victim of their own success. One, people hate the Celtics, but two, they've just been kicking everyone's butt the second they got into the NBA. Now that like they've won the title, they've been in the conference finals, 5 out of Tatum's 7 years. Like, every team they've been playing, they've been beating over and over and over again. So like, I understand why people kind of are over it. It's just like, it's like similar to any player that wins a lot in any sport, whether it's LeBron, Tom Brady. Like, the more successful you are, the more haters you also accumulate along the way. But like, and we're going to talk about some of the stuff I tweeted, but like the most frustrating part was like not him not playing. Like, that was obviously very frustrating, but it's the false narratives and like the false Tatum tropes that start to be proliferated through the media again about him being a ball stopper, and like all these things have never been true about Tatum. Not like literally never been true about Tatum. And so that's the most frustrating, is like people like creating this story about the type of player he is after we just watched him be the opposite of that guy.
The whole playoff run.
Whole playoff run. Going back to, as he said, the Olympics, like he's played a ton of different roles since he's come in the NBA. From a rookie, he was like a 3-and-D wing. He came off the bench for the Olympics. Like, even when Kemba was here, he was still like that second guy, and then he became the number. Like, he's played all of these roles, which is why it's so. Not only has he been like different spots in the hierarchy, he's played point guard, he's played center, he's like, you name it, he's done it, which is why it made no sense for him not to play. And then it's just so frustrating to see all this shit about the type of player he is when it's just not true.
Yeah, and if you're game planning for Serbia, I guess it worked out because they won, but you wouldn't play the guy who just covered a center against Dallas in the NBA Finals and could switch out and still close out on shooters, and then switch off and cover Luka by himself with some success. And you're struggling to rebound the ball.
And the guys couldn't even switch. I mean, they were playing a switching defense, and they had guys in there that aren't fit to switch. The whole thing was bizarre. And I guess the thing that was disappointing me is like, I get the media, I get the fans, but to have it come from a guy within the NBA, that it just embarrassed him. Like, I don't
exactly.
I feel like it embarrassed him on the biggest stage. And to me, it's just screwed up. You're like, I don't know how you do that to an NBA champ, a guy that's been first team NBA 3 straight times, second best player in the Olympics, is a guy you're going to want to lead the Olympics or be one of your leaders for the Olympics for the next couple, with these other guys stepping aside. And the arrogance of Kerr to do that, and I don't know if it's a personal thing. I don't know if it's because he came late. I don't think we really got an honest answer from
I think he's a
Kerr,
bad
but
coach. I think he's a bad
Yeah.
coach. I honestly
Well,
don't
there's
think
that.
it was a conspiracy. I think he's not good. And Warriors fans have been telling us that he's bad. And we're like, oh, how bad could he be? And then it's like, oh, actually, he has Steph Curry. So we didn't really notice.
Yeah. It's kind of like what we saw here with Belichick and Brady. It was, Brady walks away. Maybe he's not so good anymore.
Whoa, shots fired. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to go that far. Yeah.
But
So, Jimmy, you had reached out to Jake.
and
I
by the
think.
way, so this is a bird shirt. This USA basketball, it's a bird shirt.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
You had reached out to Jake, I think, originally because of his tweet wars, and I know you had a couple in particular that you wanted to just throw out.
You made particularly Demetrius Brown, I believe is how maybe you pronounce his name on Twitter. And he could be an excellent person. For all I know, he's working on how to solve the hunger problem in the world, or he's freeing children in Africa. I don't know. But he had a really tough day with you, and he just would not. And it was on the dumbest of issue, where he called Tatum a ball stopper. And anyone that watched the playoffs for 5 minutes would see that he was absolutely not that. And then on top of that, then you started giving him evidence. So how gratifying, and this is what I need to know from you, Jake, how gratifying it is for you to just kind of, when these trolls come out and you can put them in their place.
Look, I try to stay out of the fray, and generally, I'll go back and forth here and there.
No, you don't.
No. I mean, you're right. I don't. But I don't do this very often, where I will go over and over and over again, where I'm putting up, I'm building a 50-point lead out here on this guy, and it's and it's not Demetrius's fault. It's Steve Kerr and the media's fault that I had the day off that day, so it worked out. It was a perfect storm right there. But yeah, to go to the ball stopping thing, was good. I actually learned a fair bit myself, because I got to deep dive some of the numbers here. But it's he's like, a fact is a fact. A ball stopper and his team shoots threes. That's the only reason he has high assists. And it's you can look at the seconds per touch. It's Jason Tatum, 3.8 seconds, which is a faster seconds per touch than Luka, Kyrie, Brunson, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, LeBron James. And then it's I've muted him, so I actually have to unmute here. It's okay, now show me the dribbles. And it's Tatum's third on the team, on his own team, in dribbles per touch. And it's well, that's only a small sample size. And I gave him a 4-year sample size of the dribbles per touch actually going down. It was well, I had a feeling that I was right, but I didn't know that I was going to be this right. And Celtics Twitter enjoyed the back and forth. And so did I. But I haven't heard from Demetrius for a little while now, for some reason.
Well, you have him on mute, so you got to unmute him, see how he's doing.
I should actually go check in.
Please,
I appreciate the deep dive.
Please tag me if you do. I'd be interested.
Okay, I will do.
I appreciate the deep dive, though, because I feel like we've seen it. I feel like we've watched it. Tatum. His decision making has improved, I think, year after year. I feel like this year was on an elite level, especially in the Indiana Pacers series, is what really sticks out to me. Some of the passes he was making off the pick and roll, just things he was doing was...
the behind the back to Horford is going to be sealed to my brain forever.
Right, exactly.
And that's what's funny about that play is it's not just that he ran the pick and roll and then found it, but he curled off a screen and came downhill immediately. He didn't stop for a millisecond. He never stopped moving for that entire play, which is just that's who he's been.
And he waited for the exact right time for Miles Turner to completely commit to him, where it was perfect. Hey, my last question. Mike's going to close us out after this, but this is I kind of went into looking ahead to next season at early on this offseason, where I thought maybe they might hit their under in wins and be okay for the playoffs. Porzingis is probably going to miss at least half the season. Probably fortunate if it's not more than that, where, I think they'll probably try to rest him, and among other things. Now my thinking's, I saw the schedule, the first part of the first month and a half is not that difficult. And I think this is going to be a supremely motivated team. I think this team
Oh,
might
yeah.
go over their win total now. What are your thoughts looking forward to next year?
Yeah, so they win 64 games last year. Porzingis plays like, what does he play? Like 57 games or something
Yeah,
like that.
something around there.
And so their win totals are 57 and a half going into next season. The year before last year, they won 57 games. And that was before Derek White became Derek White, before they had Drew Holiday, before Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown took another step, before Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard took another step. So, and that
Yeah, that was
without
Rob Williams. Rob
Williams.
Yeah.
But even Rob Williams only played like 35 games because he missed like most of that season too. So like Al Horford played, because he's an ageless wonder, he played 65 games at 30 minutes a night. So that will obviously come down. But I love what they've done with the big man rotation between Cornette. Again, another development story with Cornette. Luke's been really good. Tillman now, another, like these guys that come over at the deadline, similar to Derek White, like it's really hard to find your feet. You get a full off season now. And Tillman was, I mean, he showed some incredible stuff at times. He was awesome in game 3 of the Dallas series.
Yep.
And then, like, look, you got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, Derek White, and Drew Holiday. Your floor is just so high, like on a night-to-night basis from both defense and offensive perspectives. And like, even if they go under, they might still get the 1 seed because the next closest over-under in the West is OKC at 54.5. And then Denver, Minnesota, and then New York are the first Eastern Conference team at 52.5. I'd be stunned if the Celtics don't go over like 53, 54. So like, even if they go under 57, I would be surprised they don't still get the 1 seed. Just like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are like, just put it in the bank. They're going to be a top 2 seed, like easy money. And now the roster's even better. And they're getting better as well.
Yeah, and the other top teams in the East have injury concerns in history too.
Absolutely.
That bring their numbers down.
Yeah, I think the biggest like factor would be health. You know, that's what impacts any team coming back from the championship run. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what's funny about last year is that they were so dominant. They actually didn't play that many minutes. Like I went back and looked at Tatum's 2022 run where they lost to the Warriors in the finals. He played, I don't remember the number off the top of my head now, but it was at least 200 more minutes in the playoffs alone. And it was like, they kind of cruised all year long. Like they took the end of the season off. They went 16-3. They got time off between every series. It was kind of light work.
Yeah, I'm gonna hand this off to Mike right now, but I got to tell you the most gratifying. I'm getting old. I'm gonna be 45 in October. I
feel you.
This was a stress-free season. It was fantastic. It was stress-free the whole way.
In hindsight,
if there were
I still found a way to stress.
I was falling asleep in the fourth quarter in December. I'm up 25 points. It was fantastic. And then even the playoffs, it was like outside the Indiana games. Everything else was true. It was nice. We're never going to get that again.
Oh, who knows? Maybe one more. One more. Can we get one more?
Yeah, that would be nice because I don't know what we've had to deal with the past seasons has been awful. That's taken. Yeah, I take off my hat and show you, but I'm going to.
I'm the same. We're in a Derek White era. There we go. Yeah.
Hey, Jake, I can't thank you enough. I'll let Mike close, but I know you took the time for us, and
absolutely.
And we're not the most popular podcast in the world by any stretch of the imagination. We make jokes about that all the time. Maybe we have 7 people listening, but we really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime, man. I love talking Celtics any chance I get.
All right. Thanks so much.